Hi everyone. Hi everyone. We are experiencing some technical difficulties tonight. I'm so sorry about that. The internet just went down. That is the possible outcome of doing a live broadcast. I hope you've managed to bear with us during that 5 minute delay. Yeah, just a quick intro to the sessions, exploring my interests around well-being, creativity, yoga, and nature, and having conversations with people around those areas and how the work and the way our lives are crossover. Hopefully there will be some inspiration, some insights that you might take away from these conversations and learn perhaps a little bit more about me as a creative practitioner also. So, joining me this week, sorry, is Camilla Chung. She is an eco-stylist and fashion activist, the founder of her business, Wardrobe Wellbeing, and this is described by Camilla as personal styling with a heart. She offers a therapeutic approach to working with people in order to help them identify and love their individual style. It's not just about each individual's well-being, but about the well-being of the world we live in today. She is passionate about inspiring and motivating others to form their own self-belief, which she oozes. She isn't concerned with fashion trends or rules, but rather the imagination of individuals to pursue a life with sustainable happiness. We're going to tap into Camilla's background in fashion, our shared passion for individual and collective well-being, slowing down the way we live, and our love of nature. We'll also chat about her latest venture within the fashion industry and generally get to grips with our shared passions around well-being. So yeah, there's a couple of technical faults this evening, so I hope everybody's managing to stay tuned for this. Let's welcome Camilla on. Have we got video? Camilla's not here at the moment, but I'm just wondering if there's any sound. Are you there, Camilla? Yes.
Hello.
Yay! She just breezes in. Are you okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit of technical issues there, which may have left us both feeling a little bit flustered. So we'll just take a few moments to
Yeah.
settle the nerves.
It
Um,
yeah.
we're having this conversation in July. Lockdown is gradually being eased week by week. There are new rules, new things coming into place. So I just wanted to maybe start with, what have you been doing to take care of your individual well-being during this time? What steps have you been taking, maybe over the past few months, and then kind of, let's say, last week or so?
So I think over the last sort of 2 months, it's been a lot quieter, which has been a really good thing actually. And I've had, I think, less pressures and less kind of time constraints. I've got to be somewhere, I've got to be doing something. I think it's just pulled away so much that maybe I created it on my own. It doesn't have to be that way, I don't think. But it just gave me the chance to step back and kind of think about that more clearly as to why I feel so um, pulled in different directions. So this time it was just easier. I was just at home, so I could just kind of be there and going for little walks, big walks sometimes, and just being outside. Like, the weather's been beautiful, so it's been a good chance to do that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you think that you've been inspired during this time just by having a bit of space around your normal routine?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say that I had like much of a routine before, but there was definitely um, not being as present with things as I like to be, um, and just a lot of different ideas going on all the time. I don't know. This time it's just felt like, obviously there's been such a bigger thing going on that, like, the little things just seem kind of irrelevant more. So you've got this big global pandemic that everybody's experiencing together, and then those, it's kind of like you're all in this, and it brought like a weird feeling, like this kind of humans being together, I've never experienced that before, like anybody. So I think just suddenly the world just felt very different.
Do you think we were slightly more connected, even though virtually it was more of a virtual connection?
Yeah, it's funny because suddenly the world got smaller, and it has done for you know, with the internet and everything feels like so accessible now. But suddenly, what was happening in Italy, we could see, and what was happening in like Australia, everybody just felt connected. So I think virtually, like, yeah, we could see everybody and kind of brought everyone together, which was, it was special. That's humans. We are all together. We're all in this together. So yeah, definitely.
Good. Okay. So we're going to kind of go straight into wardrobe well-being. And I just would like you to maybe just give people a little bit of an insight into what you are offering through wardrobe well-being, working with people individually. Do you just want to say a few words about that in terms of your business there, Camilla?
Yeah, I think, you know what, my business started maybe just over a year ago, and it's changed so much. Definitely, like over the last few months, even more so. But it always comes down to when you're wearing something, how you can kind of just have that belief that you can wear whatever feels good, and allowing your clothing to be a tool to develop you a little bit, to let your like little bit of confidence come through, and to have a connection with it, and to always work with the garments that you have in your wardrobe, and to find out what you really love in your wardrobe, what you don't love, why do you have those pieces then, why are they not working? Why am I not wearing something? I just think from somebody's wardrobe, you can tell so much. And I think that's where I started it. Like, it's always been about working with what's in the wardrobe. It's never been going shopping, really, unless that usually comes afterwards. But it's always just been about understanding what's in there, and then how we can kind of make more from it. And I mean, it's also about the people's wardrobes we're looking at. They're telling me. I'm not telling them what's in their wardrobe. People get descriptive. They're like, oh, this was bought here. I wear this sometimes. So it's an opportunity for them to kind of understand what's happening in their wardrobe. And then they start piecing things together, and it just kind of goes from there. So it's not really like there's a set routine or a formula. It's different for everybody, how you feel with your clothing. So I'm just there to kind of listen.
Yeah. And you have a background in counselling, don't you? You ended up training as a counsellor sort of prior to setting up Wardrobe Wellbeing.
Yeah, so it was definitely not the full counselling qualification, but there's the beginnings of this. There's still another couple of years to get the full qualification, but what I have become is an active listener. So I really listen, and I worked it was in person-centered therapy, so it was with Carl Rogers, and it was all about empathy. And any counsellor that you work with, there will never be any judgment, and that is exactly what I hope to create in the space. It doesn't matter if you have fast fashion in there. It doesn't matter if you've got the most expensive garments in there. It doesn't matter if you've got a wardrobe full of black or a multicolored wardrobe. It just does not matter. If your clothes are clean, if they're dirty, if they've got mothballs in, it's just about creating that space to kind of go through each piece and fall a little bit more in love with the pieces, and then hopefully you fall a little bit more in love with yourself, because that's what you should be feeling towards yourself, I think.
That is so beautiful. I mean, that kind of crosses over a little bit into what I'm doing as a yoga teacher, thinking about the non-judgment parts and just developing empathy as a teacher, but enabling others to almost, embrace what's there and go with it rather than having resistance towards it. And it can be the same when you look at a wardrobe, is, kind of embracing what's there and piecing it together so that it helps you to feel more free in yourself. And it's quite a similar process really that we're working with in yoga. We're just doing it through movement and breath and kind of a more meditative process. But I like your therapeutic model. You're spending time with people in their bedrooms practically, you know, going through very personal items of clothing, and, you know, to sort of have that, develop that trust, or for them to develop trust in you to be able to go through that. And I'm guessing that you uncover quite a lot, or they uncover quite a lot about themselves as they go through that process.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it might not happen when I'm in that space with them.
Yeah.
It might, it's not like they're going to have a revelation like, wow, look at this. Because sometimes they do, and that's really nice. But often it could be kind of later down the line, and they
Yeah.
might not even be aware of it, and they may not make the connection that, oh, do you know what? That's what wardrobe wellbeing, that's what I'm, but I just hope that there's like little bits of ideas that kind of come into them, and just then they start recognizing, yeah, do you know what? I can wear that. And I don't just have to look at it on somebody else and think, oh, why can I not wear that? Everybody can wear, what they want. And I think it's just sometimes allowing yourself, like it's only ourselves that we hold back. So
Yeah.
I think, it's just that little bit of confidence and somebody rooting for you, because that's what I'm doing. I'm rooting for them. So
Yeah, that is, yeah. I mean, it's a reflective process, isn't it? So it gives people time. If people can work with you over a period of months, or even
yeah,
over the period of a year, I mean, the kind of process that they would go through during that time, and what they learn about themselves and their fashion choices. I mean, you know, I came to one of your workshops earlier this year, and I've noticed since I've become a parent that I just haven't worn as much pattern. And I've just kind of gone for maybe the safer options of clothes that are going to be practical, clothes that are going to be good for being in the garden, or messing about with the children, or getting paint on, or cooking, just stuff that's going to get food on. And then there's this sort of part of me that really longs to wear, bold things, or like pretty dresses, or I saw a comment about you making your summer wardrobe was transformed when you decided to ditch shorts and wear skirts. And it's having that, it's making those steps which will transform what you wear, and the choices that you make. And I think, when I was younger, it was always you saved your best clothes until a party or a wedding, or it was like your Sunday best. And I think that really is quite a hard barrier to break through for many of us.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I hear that a lot. And in fact, and there's actually nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with kind of saving things for best as well. There's never any right way or wrong way of doing things, but there is more ways of getting enjoyment from your things. Because if you have something that is saved for best and you really enjoy wearing it, perhaps there's ways of wearing it in a slightly more casual kind of sort of way. So you could put, say, a t-shirt underneath it as well, or if it's a dress, you could wear like a jumper over the top. So you may be saving the top bit, but you've got the bottom bit exposed. But also, I would say is, you talk about being a parent and how that changes things, and there's so many transitions that you go through in your life, and I think that brings that's like reflective in your wardrobe as well, definitely.
Yeah.
And when you've got children, your style does need to be practical, 100% it does. And I think now, me personally, as my daughter has got a little bit older and she's more independent, I know myself, like my style is now becoming a little bit more how I used to be in my early 20s, a little bit more carefree. So I just think it's recognizing where you are in yourself, and like perhaps your style is like, okay, now it's kind of getting there, it's coming through, like I'm coming back into myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Recognizing where you are in yourself, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel that a little bit. And I think it has come from, having had two children and almost being in a bit of a parent bubble with that, to then suddenly now almost on the other side of that parent bubble, in terms of a little bit more flexibility with my work and my life around the children, because they're a little bit old. I mean, they're not that much older, but like Martha is 3, and she is so expressive with her fashion, and she is so like sure of the pieces that she's going to wear. And I do actually find that quite inspiring. But likewise, my nana, who passed away earlier this year, she was like a bit of a fashion icon in our family, really. And you know, I just always used to love the fact that she would always look her absolute best regardless. And she often would wear a leopard print, you know, and this is her top, so I thought I'd wear this tonight. And I took her wardrobe about 6 weeks ago when I had a chance to go through her clothes. And I just thought I have to take some animal print from her wardrobe, because she would just wear it. Like, she'd always have either a leopard print or an animal print cardigan or this top or something, and she would piece it with the high-waisted skirt. And, you know, even in her 80s and 90s, she was sort of wearing fashion that, was really inspiring to me. And I feel like like you were saying, you're kind of in your 20s now. I kind of feel like I'm starting to go back to that, but without the labels of, you know, perhaps friends or perhaps people saying, oh, what are you wearing that for? You can't wear that, you know, and just sort of letting those, I guess, personal judgments as well. But I think that does come through experience of life, you know, and just learning that we can be ourselves, and it's okay to be ourselves, and it's okay to wear something that's bold one day, and it's okay to wear something that is more comforting and perhaps less loud another day. You know, it's kind of knowing that we're okay, really.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, your nana sounds amazing. It's funny when you put animal print on, you can feel quite feline, it brings a certain sort of kind of power, I think. Sometimes like you get that animal kind of feeling, and I think that's really, it's interesting. A different print can have like a different effect. Like, I often think polka dots can make you feel a bit younger and a bit kind of
playful. Playful, same here as well. So
I think it's everything should have its moment at its time, and I think it's just about exploring it and just trying.
So within that well-being area, though, you have a really conscious kind of view on sustainability, and you're quite vocal about that as well, which is great, because I feel like I've learned quite a lot just in the short time that I've got to know you about the fashion industry and the choices that we make. And just thinking about the wardrobe well-being part and looking at the wardrobe they have, and like you say, you're not judging them if there's any fast fashion pieces in there, but really it is about embracing what's there rather than sending them off to the shops and spending their money. So do you just want to talk a little bit about sustainability, and then we'll kind of maybe move more into the broader picture of the fashion industry?
Yeah, sure. So I think with sustainability, there's like so many different levels, and how I approached it going into this especially was, what is sustainable for you? So how can you keep this kind of buying going, this clothing intake? How can you keep creating this wardrobe? What is sustainable for you? How long can you make this work? How long can you keep going with it? So for me, being sustainable is having a piece and getting the most out of it. I often say that like the most sustainable piece of clothing is the one you already own, but then how you take care of it will be how long it's going to last. So how often you wash it, how you wash it, what you wash it with, what spin cycle, all those little things can just make such a difference. And I would just say, like, when we kind of have cheaper fashions, we just tend to be a little bit more ruthless with them. We might not hang them up or take care of them as well. We might wash it more because it might need more washing. And I think if we don't kind of take care of it in our homes, then we're not going to have it for as long. So it's how you can make it sustainable. So that was kind of how I started off, because I worked with clothing a lot, and garment care was a huge thing in the company I worked for. So that was like my background and my knowledge. But then I started learning more about the world of sustainability, and then it just kind of grew from there, and that fed into kind of social sustainability, environmental sustainability, and there's just so many layers that I'm continuously learning. So kind of where I started and where I'm going, I'm on this kind of route as well. So everything I'm learning, I'm kind of sharing to help others as well. So hopefully it came from that good place, and it's going to continue to help people.
Yeah. I mean, something that you just said then about if you take care of something in your own home, then it's more likely going to thrive, which is exactly, in many ways what I'm doing in yoga as well. If we can actually take care of ourselves, then we're going to be able to sustain ourselves. It's kind of the same process, and it starts, at home, which, could be more internally around the heart, but, we're thinking about that process of self-care. And I think it's quite useful, if people are thinking about taking care of their belongings, then it's an opportunity for them to start taking care of themselves at the same time.
Definitely. I think that's I often say, like, your well-being starts with yourself, but then it's infectious, in the most positive way, infectious into lots of different areas of your life, and clothing being one of them, I think. And loved clothes last. Like, that's a big campaign from Fashion Revolution, and it's so true. They just do. They do last. So
just going to make a note of that. Loved clothes last. I just want to tap in though, because you mentioned about your background and you used to work for quite a big fashion brand. And you've mentioned before that you went to Sweden, and that was quite a turning point for you, wasn't it, in terms of the garment care and how people, you could see a difference between fashion choices in Scandinavia compared to consumerism and mass consumerism over here. So perhaps you could just shed a little bit of light on that so people can get an idea as to, why it's useful to take care of your clothes or invest in, have investment pieces as opposed to moving into the fashion
I think in Sweden they have less fast fashion houses and fast fashion retailers, so the choices aren't there as much. H&M obviously is massive. It's a Swedish brand that's huge over there, so a lot of people do shop within H&M and COS as well, which is owned by H&M, but it's just not buying as much. I don't feel. It was kind of a bit more considered. Do I really need this? Or would always kind of go more towards like the cashmeres, or kind of more of the awareness already in terms of organic cotton. It was just talked about in a much more kind of open and in the awareness over there, sustainability already. I mean, recycling is just so much easier in Scandinavia. The way of life is just more geared towards kind of more natural resources. So it's just a lot more in the awareness there, and how people approach kind of their style is functional clothing rather than just going with like a trend-led piece. It's got to kind of work on many different levels, and that's what I really loved, and that is why I talk a lot about layering, because you can wear all the things in your wardrobe throughout the year, but just kind of layer them up and make sure you've got a good vest on, good tights. And I think, having lived in a place where it gets really cold, but you also want to feel really stylish, it doesn't mean it has to go out the window. Like, functionality in your clothing doesn't mean that your style can't kind of be there as well. So it taught me a lot. It was good. Yeah. But I think my own style came back more when I moved back to England.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a great range. Like, vintage fashion is good in the UK, isn't it? And I think in particular in Manchester there's quite a big vintage fashion scene, and there's a lot more kind of swap shops, or there were obviously before lockdown. I've seen you kind of talking about them on social media, and I've seen them cropping up and around. And then also your hire library, like, that is such a great idea. So you could just maybe share a little bit about that, Camilla, in terms of what you're doing there.
I think, having been in people's houses and seen like kind of what's in the wardrobes, and just conversations as well, people sometimes feel like they want to try vintage, but not everybody knows where to start, or feels like a bit like, if I wear vintage, I'm going to look like I'm out of the 80s and I'm going to be head to toe in it. And what I wanted to try and encourage is, if you're going to an event, not that we get to go to many events anymore, but if we're going to it, for me, it was more about if you're going to a wedding and you go and you spend maybe £100 on an outfit and you wear it once. So it just didn't sit very well with me. And I love vintage. And I think we could all just try a little bit of vintage just to kind of feel the beautiful fabrics. Like, they're so unique. So I started building my little collection that I started when I lived in Hong Kong in 2009. Oh, wow. And it's just kind of gradually grown, and different places I've lived, and now I've got some just really beautiful things that you can come in and hire, and just it's a way to try vintage, really, and to not have something that's just going to stay in your wardrobe. It can stay here, and then you can just come and have a little look, and it's got a good size range as well. Like, I really thought about that. I didn't just want it to be kind of size 8, size 10. I want it to appeal to everybody. Yeah. So I've really kind of sourced pieces that have a wide size range so that everybody can experience it, because that's like the beauty of, you know, vintage. There's so many little things out there that we just kind of have to seek them out. So that's what I've tried to do. And now hopefully when things start opening up a little bit more, people can come down and try it.
Yeah. So do you think, because you mentioned that you'd hope to hold some kind of spacious social, so do you think that would be an opportunity for people to come and see your collection?
Yeah, I hope so, because I have some things now for sale as well. So like some things behind me. So that again is more wearable pieces that are really carefully selected and from contacts now that I have in different parts of the world as well. But these are pieces here now that you can come down and buy, and then have a look at because there's bridal wear as well. So get married. But I don't just want to sell online. I don't want to encourage more and more buying. I want to kind of have a space where you can try it and see and enjoy it, and kind of see people and be in people's company again at a safe space.
Yeah.
I just a lot when I was working in store, it was about the customer experience, and there's just so much more that you can get from a piece of, it doesn't just have to be a piece of clothing, it's more about the experience you have with people. So,
and I think I would be much more inclined to do that than to spend my time walking around some of the kind of more commercial vintage shops that are now all around the Northern Quarter in Manchester. Just going through, you know, rifles and rifles and rails of clothes that have been upcycled, or that, you know, it's confusing.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. It is overwhelming. And I think, you know, when you're a parent, you're kind of limited for time. And, you know, it's much more appealing for me to think, okay, I can come to Camilla's studio and spend some time there and not feel guilty, not feel the stress of having to get home, because, you know, it's kind of setting time aside for me to come and explore. And, you know, I think it's like you say, the customer experience is really valued, and we could really do with some human connection moving forward. And even though these virtual exchanges are great and they've been really nurturing for us all, I think, you know, a spacious social is where it's at, definitely.
I hope so. But I think I did it because I really wanted it as well. Everything I do, I think, I would really like that. And I think
that's why it works, though, because, you know, if you're passionate about it and this is something that you want to do, then it's going to work. Like, it's the same with me. You know, I always find that if it's something that I love, then it's going to happen. It's going to work, because that's what I would like to do that. So kind of make it happen. And then people who are like-minded will come, you know. So let's just tap into that phrase, fast fashion. So I remember you saying once, down with fast fashion. And then you just said another one earlier from the Manchester fashion movement. What was it? Loved clothes last. Loved clothes last. So could you just say, for people may be very unfamiliar with the phrase fast fashion. Can you just kind of in a nutshell explain what that is?
So fast fashion was, it was a good idea, and it had the potential to do really great things, and it did for a while. I think people in the West, in developed countries, could have access to fashion quickly and really on trend. which I don't really like, but have access to more fashion. And then underdeveloped countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, these countries and China at the time were they were going to make the clothing. So the garment workers there, it was a stepping stone for them to improve their lives. So these countries could kind of come up, and so we in the West could have access to the clothing, and the garment workers would could use their skills there and create the clothing. So globalization, everything, on paper, it should have really, really worked. However, we have continued in this part of the world to consume more and more, to take more and more. And at the rate that we've been consuming, the underdeveloped countries, they've not had their time to kind of come up alongside. So really, as our lives have been progressing and getting better, other parts of the world haven't. And the divide has got wider and wider. And that's kind of how fast fashion has been. And now, we see it more than ever. And it's even factories here in the UK that have now, come to light, that we're seeing, classed as modern slavery, where people aren't getting paid minimum wage. They're getting paid £3.50 an hour in the UK to create the garments that we're wearing. Right. And so, it just cannot continue, and it just can't. So it's hard. It's like the more I've known and discovered and read and seen, it's very difficult to keep quiet about it. So sometimes I feel it's hard to project these discoveries all the time, because it's not nice to hear. And I think sometimes people don't want to hear it from me, or not just me, but just in general. And I completely get that. And I think that's why my work tries to come in and say, look, this is happening, but we can do something about it. We can love our clothes longer. We can slow down. We don't want to end fast fashion. We don't want it to stop completely, but there has to be a more sustainable approach to fast fashion, because people still, they still need their jobs in these underdeveloped countries. We still want to, have these connections that we can be able to continue working together. But it has to be fairer, both to the countries, to the people, to, environmentally.
I was going to say, environmentally, the damage that it's causing is just catastrophic.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, like I said, there's the environmental implications and the social implications, and that's why it has to change. And it's possible. It can, if we just invested in better kind of factories, in better farming, if we were putting money towards safer warehouses, all these different things. Like, there's just changes that just need to be making, and that doesn't come down to the consumer or the citizen of buying things. That comes down to policies in place and governments and powers that are higher than us. But it's very hard to just sit back and not do anything. And I think that's why, as humans, we have the power to say, no, that's not okay. And then how we can do it. You don't want to feel like you can't do anything. So that's why you start with your own wardrobe, because if you start, then you're making changes just in your own home, and that's going to be so empowering, rather than kind of rushing out and buying something. Start taking those actions yourself, because it's like the same when you kind of start using less plastic in your house, or if you're turning the tap off when you're brushing your teeth because you don't want to waste the water. Whereas it's I think it's 2,700 litres of water go into one cotton t-shirt, and that's 7,000 litres of water go into a pair of jeans. So why are we encouraging everybody to have a lot of pieces? Why not find out what you do really like and just make the most of it? And also, I didn't know. I was like, 2,700 litres. That's actually the equivalent to 2.5 years of drinking water for a human. So that kind of puts it into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's just when you learn these things, I'm just how can I tell people to go out, in shop. Like, how can I work in that? I just couldn't. So I had to think, okay, well, what can I do? How can I help this? So that's kind of.
And that obviously is filtering in through the wardrobe wellbeing in terms of how you're getting people to just love what's already there rather than encouraging people to spend their money on garments that aren't needed when perhaps all they need to do is just think about layering, or all they need to do is just think about adding a scarf or wearing their clothes in a different way. Just sort of thinking about that with like you say, it is down to policies and it is an education process. This needs to sort of happen with the major brands as well as government policies. It's not something that that we can decide on. But in terms of, like you say, your own individual choices will make a small difference. And collectively, kind of those individual choices will be a stronger force. And you've started something called the Manchester Fashion Movement recently because you kind of wanted to have that collective presence. And in particular, sort of approaching Manchester brands who are more in the fast fashion industry. So could you let me know what you hope to achieve by the Manchester Fashion Movement, who you're hoping to have conversations with? But you don't need to name any brands as such, but, maybe just sort of let people know why collectively we're stronger and who can maybe be part of that movement. Can people be part of that movement?
Definitely. That is the whole point. I think the two girls that we all have joined together, that's Alison and Gemma, and we are working together because we realise that on our own we can do things, but actually if we get together, like, we've all got the same kind of beliefs and values and kind of ideas with this, and I felt like I want to help people individually, but I need to do more. I want to I didn't go into this thinking I was just going to become a fashion activist, but it's ended up being that way because I can't do enough, like, individually. So what can we do together? So we decided to create this. And then when we've looked, it's amazing when you see what's happened right here in Manchester, where we are now compared to where we were, like, in the Industrial Revolution, and how garments were created then, and people that were moving into this country and creating garments here. And now and the devastating lives that people led then, like in the cotton mills and what was happening there. And it's not so dissimilar to what's happening now.
Right.
And that's just like, how can the world have moved on so much, yet how we're treating garment workers is pretty much the same. They're still at the bottom level. Yeah. And so we at the moment, we're really researching what's happened here in Manchester. And that's something that we're really focusing on. So we're looking at the historical kind of timeline of the fashion movement in Manchester.
Okay.
But then we hoped, there's fast fashion, and then there's accelerated fast fashion brands. And there's ones particularly here in Manchester that are kind of in the news at the moment. And I think it's not that we want to name and shame, although sometimes brands are named and shamed, but we want to kind of work with them and ask why. Why are you doing these things? How can you do this? What are you doing in terms of sustainability? And just kind of work alongside rather than naming and shaming, because that doesn't really get you anywhere, we've realized. So it's quite early on, but we want people to join us together so that we can kind of be one voice here in Manchester, and kind of change things. We will just to empower the global citizen from here in the northern citizen from here in Manchester, and we will just see where it leads, because we hope that we can run petitions and campaigns and just help people understand that this is what's happening in Manchester. We've got a voice and we want to kind of come together.
And I think a lot of people would be interested in that as well, and especially when you kind of look at the history of fashion in the area. People are always visiting the cotton mills to get the kind of background on the industry and the way people were treated, and the stories are told so well But like you say, you know, if we can trace that and give people an indication of what's happening now, through some kind of exhibition or something, you know, if that can be done, you know, imagine it Manchester Central Library, if they had an exhibition like that, kind of, because they do it in the music industry, you know, so why not do it in the fashion industry and kind of show the truths, and it would people would be really interested, because not many people will really even know what's going on, and I think it's really important, you know, if you're investing in fast fashion brands, for people to understand what the story is behind that. And then maybe, you know, if people do want to buy new clothes, that's fine, but maybe just to have a little bit more thought about where those clothes are coming from, what is the ethos of the company, you know, just kind of doing a little bit more research. That's something that I started doing since I met you, really, and I came to your workshop, was kind of just spending a little bit more time looking into the brand that I might want to buy from, or just thinking, actually, it's okay, I'm all right now, I don't need, it's nice to look, it's nice to get an idea, but it's okay, like I'm okay.
It's fine. It's good to get inspired. It's good to kind of do a little bit of research, have a look around, and you know, it's more expensive. Buying sustainably, it is more expensive, and not everybody, you know, is in a position to do that. Gosh, you know, I'm not always in a position to do that, and I think it's just understanding what you can do and not feeling guilty for it as well, or not feeling like it shouldn't be a difficult transition. It should be a kind of thoughtful one. Like, okay, if I'm not going to do that, what could I do? What approach could I take? Because I don't like that, where people feel helpless and ashamed of like, oh, people don't want to tell me if they've bought something, if they've got it from Topshop or something, you know. I want people to be open and just be like, oh, I did this, you know, this is really nice, and I still want people to feel good in their clothing, not kind of be beating themselves up for buying something that's wrong.
I mean, I bought a couple of pairs of Topshop leggings because they feel really nice. They were always my go-to for just basic black leggings, but you know, moving forwards, I'm going to look elsewhere.
I know it's hard. It is hard.
Yeah, it is. So I just want to quickly ask about, before we sort of bring this to a close, Camilla, just thinking about maybe some upcoming workshops that you were looking to hold, and perhaps what you're going to do moving forward with those workshops, and how people can get involved and contact you.
Yeah, sure. So I did have one set up to do, and it was called Redefine Your Wardrobe, because I'm all about giving new meaning to your wardrobe.
Okay.
And that was going to be done via Zoom. And I just had a little wobble last week, and I just thought, you know what, I don't know if Zoom is the right place, because so much of what we do is comes down to feelings and trying the fabrics and thinking. So there's a lot of kind of theories that I bring into the work I do as well. So I didn't want it to be rushed or not right. So I'm holding out, because our warehouse, our studio is really, really spacious. So hopefully I can have maybe 10 people here, and we can do the workshop here together. And there's plenty of space to spread out. I provide a clothing rail, and we kind of work through garments and ideas together, sharing kind of that space. Because I just think it's just easier to kind of have that open discussion. So hopefully that's something that I'm going to kind of do from here. I mean, it does mean that it's not as far-reaching, but there's amazing people around here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I just think I'm really quite happy with just kind of being here and helping people around me, and then maybe they can tell other people, and because when they have a good experience, and it just other people hear about it as well. So you have to be with me to kind of learn. You can just kind of learn from each other as well.
Yeah, and you're building a community as well through doing that. It's the same with my yoga classes. Most most people that are coming to my yoga classes are local. Like, they're not traveling, miles and miles to come. They're in the community. They're within a few towns radius, but the community builds, and it becomes a really supportive community. And if you kind of have like recurrent workshops that people can come back to, and they can come back and friendships form, and also it empowers people. If you're around others and it's a positive experience, or you share things that are quite personal, then it becomes a bit of a journey for people to go on, and they form friendships along the way as well. I've noticed actually with my online classes, I have got a few people who hadn't done yoga with me before, and there's been a couple of people who aren't local, but most people that are coming are still my current core base, who are all local. So it's kind of, longer term, it'd be great to have a wider reach with that. But there's something really comforting knowing I know the people who are coming to this, and we're going to be in a space together again soon. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the time when we can be in a space with others collectively.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, that's all we really want, isn't it? Just to kind of, because you learn from each other, and you connect, and just you share the moments, and I think it's just really special to do that. So hopefully,
Good. Okay. So I'm going to be linking out to your website, so people can sort of keep a check on. They can always sign up to your mailing list if they want to find out more about what's happening. But just before we sort of wrap this up, Camilla, I just sort of thinking about the pause that we've gone through. We touched on it at the start, but thinking about what do you hope or imagine will change moving forward, perhaps on an individual level and then maybe on a collective one. If you'd like to sort of leave any thoughts for us.
Before when I started Wardrobe Wellbeing, and I tried to tell people what I was doing, it was quite hard. It was you're a personal stylist, but let's go shopping. And it was really hard for people to kind of understand that we just started with their wardrobes. Now, however, after this pause, people are getting it. And they may not use the word sustainability, sustainable, ethical, but they're understanding that you should cherish what you have. You should cherish your life, your belongings, your clothing, the moment. And so I think hopefully my people understand what direction I'm coming from now, and they're kind of a little bit more on board with it, because they get it now a little bit more. Like, I understand. Before it was a bit too like, what? Whereas now it's like, oh, yeah, I need that in my wardrobe a little bit more. So I hope that my ideas are kind of further reaching in that respect, that more people grasp it, because they're experiencing it as well, which is really, really great. And then collectively, I don't know, is that collectively or personally? I just want to continue kind of this less pressures, and just being outdoors more, and these just nice, simpler moments have just been really special. So, and just how human nature is like all come together, it gives you kind of hope of what we can do, and I think that's been really, really nice. So I hope we can continue taking care of each other as well.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like you say, you should cherish what you have, has definitely been at the heart of it for us as a family. And when you kind of strip back all the chaos, and what you're left with is yourself and your closest loved ones, whether they're friends or whether they're family members in your household, and not having to worry about the other stuff. It's been a really important time, I think, for people to hold on to that, and to remember what's important, and how we can move forward still actually caring for one another, and not lose that connection. People have been really supportive and really caring, and it's just sort of, we hope that can be maintained in some way. I've not been out shopping yet. I haven't been into Manchester, but I am due to actually go in tomorrow. I'm going to see one of my physical therapists, and it's going to be a bit strange, really, going in, and Yeah, I'm not really staying in for long, and I'm not going around any shops or anything.
Too tempting that all the sale signs will be up. It's hard. I've walked through there and yeah.
Okay, so I've got a question actually. Someone, Olivia, has left a question for us. Where does Camilla buy her clothes for herself and for the hire rail?
Different places really. Before, I shop everywhere, a lot secondhand. Charity shops I buy for myself. Other vintage shops around Manchester, online vintage stores. I would say I'm definitely more of a secondhand kind of vintage person myself. Although there are lots of great, there's sustainable brands definitely, but me personally, that's where my actual clothing comes from.
Okay.
eBay, I get my clothing on eBay as well. This ghost dress I got from there.
I love them.
Oh, it's like, this is silk, crepe silk, and so this I got on eBay from a beautiful seller on there. A good tip as well is if you're ever looking on eBay and you're thinking, oh, what do I want? Because it can be overwhelming. Think of a brand that you like. So, that's a great way to kind of shop, like a brand that you like, but try their secondhand collections first on eBay, because that's more sustainable as well. So if you like Topshop, but you're trying not to buy Topshop, then buy Topshop secondhand. If you like or just try secondhand fashion first and see how that works out for you. And then the hire rail, that comes from vintage suppliers. Sometimes I'll be really lucky. Like one time I found a daughter whose mother had a clothing shop in the 60s and 70s, and now she just had all her mother's collection. So then she told me, what pieces would you like? And then we just started a conversation. I told her what I did. So it's just kind of finding people and having little conversations and what I do. And then if I travel to different parts of the country, then I'm like, if I see my sister in London, then I'll look in London. It's just, I'm always looking.
I mean, yeah, always on the lookout. And then you can, I love that. I would never think to go on eBay to buy anything other than something practical. Oh, we sell stuff on eBay, I've sold children's clothes on eBay. Like, why don't I just look on eBay for something? That it's so funny, isn't it?
And I often, there's always like a search engine. Whatever, if you go on a Oxfam website, Oxfam Originals website, you can search on there, search for the brand on there. If you're really specific and looking for something, that's the best way, because you just type it into the search engine on the website, and then it'll just bring everything up. Like, you could look for COS size 10 and everything had come up in size 10. So just kind of make it easier for yourself like that, rather than feeling like, whoa, where do I start?
Yeah, I think that's it. When I've gone on to a vintage store, let's say, you just sort of browse the collection, because you know that you're looking for maybe a dress, or you know that you might be looking for a cardigan or something, but then you're just looking through the store's collection. Whereas, like you say, if you have a more specific idea of what it is that you're looking for, and then I hadn't really thought of going to Oxfam Originals like that, it's just stuff like that, is thinking outside the box in terms of where we might get our clothes from, rather than just thinking of the obvious choices. Like, even going on a vintage store website is like, right, okay, let's go on the Oxfam Originals site instead. And yeah, that's great, Camilla, thank you.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so I think we are ready to bring it to a close. Have you got anything else that you want to share, Camilla?
No, just that, don't feel guilty for purchasing things. Don't ever see me as a person that would ever judge you. Like, my services are here to help and to inspire, never influence, and just kind of motivate you to kind of have a little bit of self-belief when it comes to your own kind of purchasing habits and style. So I think that's all. And I share a lot of things on my Instagram page and on my blog. So I think if you could just follow me, and then you will see kind of what areas I'm coming from, what direction, because I just hope it's always coming from kindness.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. So I think we've just lost Camilla on there, but she said it's always coming from kindness. So that was such a lovely note on. So we're going to leave it there with the conversation with Camilla. Our technical issues have finally outnumbered us. But I really hope you enjoyed the conversation with us both. Camilla's really inspired my fashion choices and really educated me just through, you can find that out just through following her Instagram account. Just how much there is to learn out there. And then also, like with her workshops, spacious socials, I'm hoping to get to one myself. But yeah, if you have anything you'd like to share based on the conversation with Camilla, then feel free to email me. My email address is yoga@helenroscoe.com, or you can leave any comments in the YouTube thread as well. So yeah, I think that's about it for this evening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And next week, I'm going to be taking a guided yoga practice on back care. And then in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be doing episode 6 of the Wellbeing Sessions with public speaker and kind of mentor Stella Scustel. I'm going to get her name wrong, so I'll have to do that another time. But she might even be listening, so I'm sorry, Stella, about that. But yeah, so that's going to be episode 6, and then I'm going to be taking a break, and the Wellbeing Sessions will resume again in September. But in the meantime, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay, bye.